He's going to edit this whole thing, too, and turn it around. And it could be a week. It could be 3 months. It could be a year. We don't know. Speaking of which, we actually have a vault of archived videos that we have shot 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ago.
Yes.
It's almost kind of like a time capsule.
It is a time capsule.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Prepare for takeoff.
You're now listening to Stepner Show.
Well, Gustavo. You finally got me right where you wanted me. Sitting across from you doing a podcast.
But this is not our first podcast.
No.
Actually, you're like the person who helped me create this podcast a few years ago.
I still remember the day that I came back from Dallas and you had the entire living room set up with this like long bench, like table,
like a workbench.
Yeah. And I was like, what is going on? And you're like, I want to turn this into a workspace. I'm going to create a podcast. I was like, cool, man.
And I didn't know what the podcast was going to be about at the time. And I felt that it was one of those things where you and I were reconfiguring the whole house. Because at this time, you and I were living together.
Yeah.
And this was a great opportunity to discover, I was doing an inventory of stuff while you were gone. And I had discovered that I had all this equipment. And I just felt like doing a podcast. Mm-hmm. And you were the person that helped me launch that in the first episodes. Mm-hmm. And I feel that storytelling is one of the greatest things that we have as humans. And this initiative has been one of those things where capturing stories and, people's adventures is something that's been grand for me. And as the podcast has evolved, I'm so grateful to have you back.
Yay! I'm happy to see what it's evolved to. You have a lot of really great stories to tell, and you interview a lot of really wonderful people. One of the things that I like about working with you is kind of like our unspoken language that we have, where I can pick up where you left off and you can pick up where I left off. And from the idea to pre-production to production to post, we're right there the whole time, side by side, brain to brain, figuring it out.
And this has been like almost 10 years in the making. Like it's taken us almost 10 years to get to this level. Mm-hmm. Right? We met as collaborative spirits working on projects together. Mm-hmm. Then we became friends, and then we became more than friends. We became family. We shared a home, and we started creating a lot of adventures together. Mm-hmm. And now we're in a whole new era of our friendship.
Yeah.
And what's it like for you to be here at Happy House 2.0?
Yes. It definitely brings up a lot of nostalgia for me. It's nice, though. And it's a great place to find creative spark.
Our friendship has always been anchored in creativity, all the way from the WAPO stuff that we were doing, all the way to some of the more freestyling stuff, some of the more things like the circus and more lifestyle things. And then there's things that are a bit more higher concept or a little bit more pre-produced, a little bit more action-driven. And over the course of these 10 years of working together, what's been some of the highlights for you that come to mind?
What are some of your highlights?
I would say that the MARINNA VELA shoot is probably the one that stands out to me the most. Mm-hmm. The MARINNA VELA shoot is your project, and you were taking lead. And I was never really been in a MMA world before. So that was a brand new experience for me.
That was an intense experience for sure. I mean, I even got ringside for a minute, and then I was in the ring, and then, you know, all the way from weigh-ins to running to the store with her to get some last-minute things, and then doing the interview with her. I think it was a really cool opportunity for a creative project, but also putting our own skills to the test.
Exactly.
I mean, we were only a two-man group.
Well, that was also the first time that we were doing something that wasn't really about us.
Yeah.
Right? That was something where
We had a focal point.
Right. We had a central figure that wasn't about you or me.
Or something we were doing.
Exactly. So
it was about a subject.
Exactly. And I think that Marina Vela shoot really was one of those things that just crystallized our experience working together, because it really put us on the forefront as a team to work together for someone else.
Mm-hmm. I think the Marina Vela shoot and what we learned, not only as people working together, but in our own creativities, what challenging us to see how far our skills could go, you know, and coming up with questions on the spot and interviewing people. And, you know, that's really what kind of catapulted our next few projects that we did and into today, what I'm working on now.
I agree, absolutely, because that really just synergized our whole workflow, where everything that we had done that was scripted and then into unscripted, and then all the freestyle, lifestyle things that we were doing together, from the circus to the
LA Art Show,
Porsche Experience.
Yeah.
You know, all the way to today. What are you working on these days?
These nuts. No, I'm just kidding. I'm working on a few things these days. Some creative projects and some professional projects.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Anything you can talk about and share here publicly?
So I am working with a creative team right now on a script that they approached me with an idea of a reality TV show. And once we started really getting into it, I realized, you know, reality is a lot harder than scripted. I mean, sure, it's easy and it's completely saturated these days, but you have to start thinking about it morally, right? How is the talent? Is the talent okay with this? And then we got to have them sign a bunch of paperwork, like anything that happens, you know. And then it was just becoming so much. And then there was a fallout with some of the talent, so I was like, hey, let's just make it scripted. We hire actors, and you know, it's a way for us to get away from reality because it's so saturated right now. And then, you know, with the strike and everything that's going on right now, the only thing you really can do to be creative is write your own stuff.
Right. And self-empowerment, yeah.
And what's funny about that is years ago, I was working for a company, a theater company, the Skylight Theater Company, and we had done a series of one-woman shows. And I watched them all because I was, you know, doing tickets, and then I was, you know, doing Salesforce, and I was, you know, all of the above, stage manager, and, you know, or helping out as assistant manager. And I asked a woman, I can't remember who she was, what her name was, but she had just wrapped her one-woman show, and I asked her, I said, because her husband was a very well-known director and writer as well in the industry, and I said, do you have any advice for a young woman in the big city, right? You know, like somebody, an ingenue taking on this role, and what advice do you have, or a piece of advice could you give? More soups, please. And she looked at me dead in the eye, and she said, write your own stuff. And that resonated with me. And then I wrote my first short film, or short, I don't know what it was, but it was something that I did in my acting class, and that turned out really cool. I wanted to continue with it, but life happens, and then you shelve a project. And then...
but sometimes creating these projects that get shelved are really more of like a schooling and just learning process. So it's all valid.
Exactly. And that's what my next point was going to be, is that through all of the different projects and creativity opportunities that have been in my pathway, I've learned so much about production, pre-production. You can't do anything without a script. Sure, you have an idea, but do you have a script? You know, like,
Right.
you can't really hire actors or until you have a script. And what is the childhood of every character like? And then, or not everyone deserves a backstory. It's just so much to it.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. And I felt that that's what's so compelling about stories and storytelling, is that some stories are shelved and some stories make it all the way out to an audience. Right? And in our particular case, the stuff that you and I have worked together, I've always loved that you always pull me out into the field. Like, you're always getting me out somewhere, you know, whether we're at an MMA shoot or at a fashion show. Like, you're a doer.
Thank
right?
you.
And I feel like that's why you and I click, because we both like to do.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
What are some of the things that you are also like looking forward to doing? Like dream projects. Give me some of your dream projects.
I don't have anything that I'm like daydreaming about other than what I'm like currently working on. My dream project is me. Getting me to where I need to be in life. That's my dream project. And let me tell you, it is a hell of a fucking project.
I think that's actually the best dream project, because I feel like we're always learning. We're always a work in progress.
Yeah.
Right? And you said something earlier where we work on these projects and then life happens and then we shelve them, or we get to them later.
Yeah.
Right.
Or we don't.
Or we don't. Pivoting into the self, right? The dream project. You know, I've never actually heard anybody really say it like that, the way you just did. And what does that mean to you? You're the dream project.
Well, I think, you know, a lot of it has to do with healing childhood wounds, right? Growing up, you might have this grandiose idea that you want to do magic, or that you want to, you know, be a football star or a singer or an actor or a doctor or a lawyer. And somewhere, someone ridiculed you for that idea, shot you down. You're not good enough. You'll never amount to anything. I don't believe you. Get that idea out of your head. You know, I want to go to Harvard Law. Yeah, right. You're not smart enough. Whatever it is, right? I want to be a surgeon. You can't even do math. How are you going to be a surgeon? And it's like, because I'll fucking learn math, bitch. You know what I mean? I said I want to do it, damn it. Support it. With that being said, there are parts of me that little Raquel is like, are we there yet? Did we do it? And I don't know if it's a dream of mine per se, like that word dream, or if it's something that's just instilled in me, that I have the capabilities and the opportunities to become what it is that I want.
Right.
Whether that's the GM of a car dealership or a retail store, or, you know, I'm thinking about who I am and where I am today in my life, right? Or whether that looks like owning my own production company and I do advertisements for companies, and I, you know, or I write movies, or I'm an acting coach, or whatever it is, right? I think that anyone's sole purpose and dream is to just elevate the environment around you and the people as well.
And one thing that I love about you is no matter what we're doing, no matter what we're working on, and in fact, more in the real life, like I feel like that's what you do. When you walk in your room, you make that room better.
Me personally?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
You have this impact on you're on a wavelength of positivity, and you have the power to really make a positive impact on people's lives. I've seen it. I've been the recipient of that. And I also am a champion for you to continue doing that for other people. So when we're working on projects, it's all fine and dandy and it's awesome. But when you and I are not working on projects and we're just existing as friends, to me, that's become more of my favorite experience with you. Even though I still love creating.
Yeah.
I just feel like being your friend to me has been one of the greatest privileges of my life.
Well, thank you. I second that.
Hey.
I think one thing, though, about yours and I's not only friendship but professional relationship is that we have an understanding of each other's boundaries, right? And again, that comes with experience and age and our time together and not together and our conversations that we've had. And the fact that you and I feel completely trustworthy to being vulnerable with each other and not being afraid to hurt each other's feelings if you believe that it's for the greater good of that person or the environment, right? Speaking of which, we actually have a vault of archived videos that we have shot 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ago.
Yes.
And a lot of those projects include, it's almost kind of like a time capsule.
It is a time capsule.
You know, different stages in our lives and where we were at and how we overcame a lot of challenges in I'd say like the past 5 years.